Just ahead on American Black Journal, the president of the Detroit NAACP sits down with me to talk about the latest racist attacks on African Americans, plus an update on the efforts to fight kidney disease in the black community. Stay right there. American Black Journal starts now.
American Black Journal is funded by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, a partner with communities where children come first.
How does diversity bring energy to us all? At DTE Energy, we believe that it's the contributions of all that build great communities. As a company, we grow stronger by welcoming the unique perspectives of everyone. As community members, we support our state's broad culture and heritage. From working closely with women and minority-owned suppliers to embracing our local cultures, DTE Energy is powering diversity. The DTE Energy Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit Public Television. Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta faucets, craft-made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
Ford has a long history of honoring the achievements of great men and women. We also recognize that honoring means ensuring their legacies are carried forward. 2018 marks the 50th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. To continue his legacy, Ford is partnering with the King Center and encouraging everyone to perform 50 acts of kindness. Between now and August 28, go to mlk54.org and register your act of kindness. Add Ford in the group name, as Ford will recognize select actions from our Southeast Michigan community. Perform your simple act of kindness, and together we'll carry forward Dr. King's dream of creating a beloved community.
Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. Starbucks announces racial bias training for all of its employees after being accused of racial profiling. A black teenager gets shot at by a white man after knocking on his door to get directions. And Sacramento police delay calling for medical help after shooting an unarmed black man 8 times. These are just a few of the recent headlines that have sparked protests and cries of racism. Here to talk about the attacks on Black America is the president of the Detroit branch of the NAACP, Reverend Wendell Anthony. Welcome back to American Black Journal.
Thanks, Stephen. Good to be with you, as always. These are crazy times.
These are super crazy times. I want to start maybe in a little bit of a different place. I think when you look at all 3 of those incidents I was talking about there in the open, I think you have to start to wonder about the cost and the burdens of integration on African Americans. And I don't think that's something we talk an awful lot about. 50 years after the legal barriers to integration fell, it's still too difficult, I think, to be black in a white space.
No question about it. I mean, people still want to talk about we live in a post-racial society, particularly since Barack Obama has been president and Oprah and all of the folk who seem to have made it. There are individual instances. But the fact that you and I, if we were to meet at a Starbucks potentially, could not sit there and wait for a third party. Might go to jail, might be shot. Something is wrong in America. America has a problem. The problem is not, folk want to say racism or economic inequality. It is ignorance. We are ignorant, Stephen. We're ignorant of each other. We're ignorant to the degree that we really don't understand each other. We're ignorant to the degree that integration and the fusion of different cultures should be a blessing, not a burden. And it is. How often have you heard of 2 whites being arrested in a Starbucks or any other place because they happen to be sitting there? Folks sit there all day with their computers, drinking water and having meetings. They don't even plan to meet, but they sit there. But these 2 black individuals could not do that. Young black boy, 14 years of age, in the daylight, being shot at because he needed help. Renisha McBride, Dearborn Heights, at midnight, 19-year-old, she needed help. Stephen Clark in his backyard, shot 8 times. I mean, in his grandmama's backyard. So I'm saying we have a problem, Stephen, and Dr. King said it well, that the real danger of us is that so many of us have a conscientious ignorance and a sincere negativity when it comes to understanding the times in which we live. 50 years after his death.
Yeah.
50 years after the Kerner Commission. And you mentioned the fact that Starbucks is now going to do sensitivity training. That's good. Yeah. The CEO apologized. But Stephen, who's doing the training? If the people doing the training are not indigenous to the people who are victims, there's still no. That's why we have a problem with the Michigan State Police.
Right.
They want to train themselves.
Right.
If you don't change the culture, I don't care how many folk you recruit, it's not going to be the same.
Yeah.
You got to change it.
Some people might look at this and say that the answer for African Americans, and as a parent,
yes,
whose kid walks home from school, I think some of the instinct is to say retreat from those spaces of integration, right? Why should we go and risk the danger, the life-threatening danger in some cases, of dealing with that kind of integration? What's the argument that says that's not the approach?
Well, I think for me it's not the approach, because that means I have to live beneath my privilege, and I'm not prepared to do that. All of America is mine.
Right.
Not just a segment, not just the ghetto, not just the city, all of it. Don't mean I live in all of it, but I fought and died, so to speak, for all of America. When we go to war, we don't just fight for Michigan or for Detroit or for California. We fight for the United States of America. We blood, died, sweated, and shed bones for America. So to yield that, to yield what our folk have fought for, to put ourselves in a community where we do not have the advantages that America has, no, that's going backwards. We are not going to do that. Even though we have a president that wants to categorize people as murderers and rapists, as coming from S-hole countries, if you come from Africa, as being of no significance, of wanting more folk from Norway who look like him.
Right.
When that is the tone of America. We cannot allow ourselves to be subject to that. Being black in America is not a crime, Stephen. I mean, that's why we're having this forum on May the 5th, the Dr. Ron Walters National Town Hall meeting on being black is not a crime, from people from Rochester, with the police department, with policymakers. Free, open to the public. Call 313-347-2820. I'm trying to get that in before we bust up. 347-2820 to register and to come aboard, because being black is not a crime. And I'm simply saying that, Stephen, you and I and others have come too far to be turned back now. America is better than this.
Yeah. Let's talk about the region here in Southeast Michigan. Rochester Hills. Those are places we've seen in the news before when it comes not just to overt racism or discrimination, but I'm thinking of the Walking Man story from a few years ago in the Free Press, where you've got somebody walking 20 miles back and forth to work because the buses don't run, and through all of those communities. There's still this willful, even if it's not overtly called racist, there's still this willful pushback against the idea that, as you say, being black is not a crime, and that black people can live and work where they want.
And have the duty and the responsibility and the privilege to do so. Whether you're walking, sitting, standing, running, you still find yourself at risk. And until we as a nation come to grips with that, until we recognize that none of us are safe until all of us can be safe and feel safe, we got a problem. And one of the things that we find, there are studies that show that this impacts not only the racial issue, it affects the academic issue. Black boys are still being expelled 5 times greater than their white counterparts. Black people are still getting sentenced in jail much harsher for the same criminal offenses than their white counterparts. Black folks still cannot get mortgages and home loans based, no matter how much money they have as their white counterparts. And this is 50 years after Dr. King talked about a dream. He not only had a dream, he had a plan. Don't leave him on the mountaintop dreaming, because then you don't have him down in the valley working with his plan. The plan is for us to come together as a nation and to resolve some of these issues. The plan is for you to look at me and me to look at you as human beings, not as individual who is black, therefore I got to be guarded, or not as an individual who is white, therefore I got to be protected. To the degree that we all can come together. And I think, Stephen, it's important that those of us who know better have to do better. We will be judged for this generation not by the noise of the bad people, but by the silence of the good people. You cannot be silent. That's why I'm so glad to be on American Black Journal talking to you, because I know I ain't gonna be silent, and you ain't gonna let me be silent.
That's right. Never. Of course not. Before we run out of time, I do want to ask you about what is it that black people, just regular old black folks who live in this country, what can they do? What moves the needle on this stuff? We're talking about 50 years now of it not moving nearly far enough. What are we supposed to be doing?
I think that I must say what Dr. King said when he talked about, how can I get other folk to love me and to have some heart. And he responded that, my position is that would be nice if they did love me, but I'm trying to keep them from killing me.
Right.
So therefore, it has to be about policy. We got to work on policy. We got to work to make sure that we elect the right people who enforce policy. Trump is enforcing policy. While we're looking at all the mess he's doing, he's putting in judges that's going to be there for a lifetime. He's changing immigration policy. We got to look at policy. You can't stay home for the midterms. You got to elect people who are sensitive to these issues. You got to speak up. You got to stand up, and you cannot be afraid. We have the right to live where we want to live, to associate with whom we want to associate, to love whom we want to love, to go to school where we want to. We have fought and died for that, and we cannot surrender that. And I would say now is the time for all people, white, black, red, yellow, to stand up and to be mellow when it comes to speaking up for that which is right and that which we must have in order to make America not great again, but to make America be what America should be again. That is a home for all of its people, regardless color, creed, or situation they may have been born in. America can do that, but we have to do it.
I've got you here. I want to make sure I ask this question about the Democratic slate for the fall here in the state of Michigan. Speaking of progress and lack of diversity, is that a slate that can win in the state? Can it pull the votes that it needs out?
Even what does it have to do with what we're talking about? Why are you asking me?
Because I got you here.
Let me just say, the slate needs to be diverse. You cannot talk about diversity and then display
and not do it, right?
It has to be diverse. I'm hoping and praying and working that as before we see August and November, that slate will have some diversity. I mean, there's still a position there for the lieutenant governor. There's still, and then two, diverse in terms of your programs, your policies. Where do we fit in the economic thing? Where do we fit in terms of the appointments of universities, and where do we fit in the economic development? So there's some ways in which you can reach out. Right now, the slate begs for some diversity.
All right, Reverend Wendell Anthony, always great.
Thank you, Steve. Always good to be with you, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you on the show. Up next, the fight against kidney disease. But first, we're taking a look back at some of the guests on this program over the last 50 years. Here's a 1987 interview with football player and businessman Mel Farr about racism in sports.
What about the situation of emphasis in terms of black coaches, not only in the NBA, but the NFL, where there are none?
You know, I left the Detroit Lions in the NFL in 1974. 1975, I became an automobile dealer. At the time I became a Ford dealer, there was only 16 Ford black dealerships in the country. There are no black vice presidents of Ford Motor Company. There are very few blacks in the top management of our largest corporations in America. There's no black coaches. There's no black general managers in professional football. What it is saying to us, and I find it very difficult to deal with it as a player. We can play, we can run, but we cannot coach. We cannot be general managers. The reason for that is that they don't think that we are smart enough are intelligent enough, all right, for them to put their multi-million-dollar club in our hands and for us to go out and perform, as the corporations don't feel that we're capable of doing it. And I say, you don't know if we're capable unless you give us an opportunity to prove, you know, that we're capable of doing. Now, Casey Jones, I think, has done an outstanding job of coaching the Boston Celtics. But nobody really mentioned how good of a job of Casey Jones have done with the Boston Celtics. You take Bill Russell; he was the only coach to coach 2 back-to-back NBA champions. No one talks about that. We're capable if given the opportunity.
April is dedicated to raising awareness of organ donations and minority health. African Americans are 3 times more likely than whites to develop kidney disease. The #1 cause is diabetes. The National Kidney Foundation launched a public service announcement this month about blacks and kidney disease and the need for organ donors. Take a look.
Kidney disease impacts people's lives in a way that's unimaginable. My mother was on dialysis for several years. It completely changed the way she lived.
African Americans are 3 to 4 times more likely to progress to end-stage renal disease from chronic kidney disease compared to Caucasians. For many African Americans, they will be told that they will need to stay on dialysis for the rest of their life, and that is not true.
We just didn't know that it was an option to be able to donate. It really didn't change much for me, but it changed so much for the person that I gave the kidney to.
Even on that first day, they look different and they feel different.
The impact that kidney disease has on people's life doesn't have to be the end of the story. If you or a loved one is suffering from kidney disease or kidney failure, I highly encourage you to contact your doctor to find out more about living donation or go to kidney.org.
Joining me now are Sam Shapinski from the National Kidney Foundation of Michigan and Nikki Bryant, a kidney disease patient and peer mentor at the foundation. Welcome both of you to American Black Journal.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Sam, let's start with the numbers that I was just talking about there. 3 times more likely to develop kidney disease. What are some of the reasons for that? I mean, we see different and disparate impacts, health impacts on African Americans in many different areas. What's the driver here?
Well, there are a number of different factors that disproportionately affect minorities and especially African Americans. We know that 70% of kidney disease is caused by diabetes and hypertension, which are both preventable, and African Americans suffer that at much higher rates than other racial groups, and especially Caucasians.
Yeah. And this idea that you don't have to sort of suffer with kidney disease and dialysis, the disruption of dialysis for the rest of your life, there's a sort of a cultural disconnect that I think prevents a lot of African Americans from understanding that and then pursuing it.
A lot of, especially African Americans, they don't just find out that they have kidney disease until later stages, and so the complications that kind of snowball with that from late detection make it a lot harder, and some of that relates to access to care and some preconceived notions that a lot of people have towards what care will be like.
Yeah. Nikki, tell us about your story.
So I started out finding out that I had kidney disease as a young teenager. I was having some flu-like symptoms. My mom came home and took me to the ER, and we found out that my numbers were all over the place. And
when you say numbers, what are those numbers?
So the factors are for kidney disease is like your creatinine, your GFR, which kind of is a number that lets you know the toxicities in your body, how your kidney's functioning at what percentage. Those were all off the charts. So then they had told us that I was in kidney failure.
And so what did the treatment look like for you as a child?
Yeah, so as a young person coming into it with an illness, they right away had to put a catheter in my chest, so that way there would be some access for me to get the dialysis that I needed. So as a teenager, you're already going through body images as is, and then to have some foreign object really on top of that, it was very scary. It was really hard to take in.
And dialysis led to what?
So my dialysis was from a rare kidney disease called Goodpasture syndrome. It's an autoimmune disease, family's lupus. And that's how I fell into that. The type of Goodpastures that I have, it was very rare at that time. So there wasn't a lot of information on it. They just knew that they needed to get my blood clean and I needed to start dialysis right away. So that's...
Yeah. You're a kidney ambassador for the foundation, which entails, reaching out to people who might not be on top of their health. In your case, though, this was something that developed when you were a child. I mean, that's an entirely different kind of issue.
Yes. With that being said, though, dialysis is still the same, whether I had an autoimmune disease or it was something that, could have been prevented. That's why I think it's so important to get in the community and let people know that diet and exercise is just such a key, because getting to the point where you're at dialysis is just such a lifestyle change. And a lot of people are not very accepting and willing to follow, but if you could do something to prevent it at the beginning.
Talk about some of the symptoms that people should be aware of that would say, hey, I should probably see my doctor and ask about whether this is kidney disease.
Well, early on, the early stages a lot of people are asymptomatic. And it's often towards the later stages where things like diabetes and hypertension come up that there is some indication that someone is going into later stages of kidney disease. They're the things that we hear more about, increased thirst, but the complications of diabetes and hypertension with high sugars, low sugars, high blood pressure people can experience kind of flu-like symptoms and a number of things that may not be super specific. So that's why we really encourage everyone to be in stronger contact with their primary care, with their healthcare providers. So some of the symptoms which may not be definitive can be still caught.
Sure. Often in the African American community, there's an issue not just with going to the physician regularly, but having a physician who is aware and aggressive about pointing out the things that you need to be aware of.
Yeah, very, very much so. Fortunately now, with the GFR test is much more common if you are going for an annual physical. It's a regular test in a blood test, and it can help us detect at earlier stages. Other types of screenings, community-based screenings, have some impact. There are a lot of other ways to start to educate ourselves to find out how to do that. And the Kidney Foundation is involved with that. We work with community groups like churches. Very recently, March was National Kidney Month, so we partnered with Fellowship Chapel in Northwest Detroit to offer a kidney screening with other partners in the area.
If there's one thing you could say to people out there about what they should know, what they should be looking for in terms of being that sort of ambassador, what would that be?
The one thing people always say to me when they meet me is, you do not look sick. And I want people to know that this is what kidney disease looks like. It doesn't discriminate. It has no, finger pointing. It affects us all. And dialysis is really hard. It's really taxing. You are told what you can and can't eat, how much you can and can't drink. There's so many factors in it that just throws off your normal lifestyle. And if someone could get tested, go to the doctor, have them check for their kidney function, just be more alert of what you're putting in your body. Get up. It's starting to get nice out, hopefully for Michigan. We can get out and get some exercise, and I strongly encourage that of all ages, everything.
Okay. Congratulations on the work, and thanks both of you,
Thank you.
for being here.
Thank you.
That is our program for today. Thanks for watching. You can get more information about our guests at AmericanBlackJournal.org. And as always, you can connect with us on Facebook and on Twitter. We'll see you next time.
As American Black Journal looks ahead at the next 50 years, we want to hear from you, the viewers. Tell us what you think of this program and what you'd like to see on future episodes. Visit AmericanBlackJournal.org to take a quick survey and share your opinion. Thank you.
American Black Journal is funded by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, a partner with communities where children come first.
How does diversity bring energy to us all? At DTE Energy, we believe that it's the contributions of all that build great communities. As a company, we grow stronger by welcoming the unique perspectives of everyone. As community members, we support our state's broad culture and heritage. From working closely with women and minority-owned suppliers to embracing our local cultures, DTE Energy is powering diversity. The DTE Energy Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit Public Television. Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta faucets, craft-made in Merilite cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
Ford has a long history of honoring the achievements of great men and women. We also recognize that honoring means ensuring their legacies are carried forward. 2018 marks the 50th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. To continue his legacy, Ford is partnering with the King Center and encouraging everyone to perform 50 acts of kindness. Between now and August 28, go to MLK54.org and register your act of kindness. Add Ford in the group name, as Ford will recognize select actions from our Southeast Michigan community. Perform your simple act of kindness, and together we'll carry forward Dr. King's dream of creating a beloved community.